get you there somehow or another. If anybody yells at us, I'll take the heat. I'll just go, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I'm sorry, just play stupid, you know. And but I'm going to get you there no matter what. There's a hush over the valley. There's a cowbell ringing in the distance. I doubt that cow survived. General Frank Cheatham lowers his head. A staff officer hears him say this just to himself, that this is a mistake, and it doesn't make me feel any better to know that we're all to blame for this.
Is it true that Claiborne did convince Hood to let him go in by a column of brigades?
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that. The orders were 2 long lines for Claiborne's division, and he asked for permission to form his men of columns of brigades, meaning Granbury, Govan, and Lowry. Now, I am going to note on this, in General Hood's book, he would write that Claiborne came up to him and said, almost verbatim, that General Hood, I have more faith in the cause than the first shot fired of the war. And Hood said, God grant it. I don't know if any historian believes that. I don't believe it. I don't believe that. That goes against everything, aka Selma, Alabama, September '64. We're going into Scipio. We're going into Africa. I don't believe we'll be successful with Scipio. It goes against everything he said that Claiborne has said. I don't believe it. I don't believe he said that. Claiborne's dead, and when General Hood would write that, maybe he's getting confused with another officer that said that years later. Claiborne didn't say that. I never met anybody yet to believe that. Maybe some do. But that's what Hood would write. But that's true. He formed a brigade, his division columns brigade. So, Claiborne's division, to the right of the pike, with the Texas on the pike. Brown's division, to the left of the pike. Gordon's Tennesseans, Gist, South Carolinians, Georgians, Straw's Tennesseans, and Johnson Carter's Tennesseans. 3,700 strong, 3,000 strong. Bates division, Old Grits, to the left of Brown's division. Jackson's Georgia Brigade, T.B. Smith's Tennessee Georgia Brigade, Florida's Finley Brigade, 2,200 strong. And of course, Stewart's Corps with Lawrence Division coming from the east, 3,416. Walthall's Division, 2,600. And French's Division, 2,200. About 17,600 infantry will be stepping off. For a Hood separated Forest Command, which I feel is a big mistake. Send Chalmers to the west, and Buford would be on Stewart's Corps right, and then only Jackson's division would cross the Hughes Ford. Would you point to that Hughes Ford in that very right there? Right here? That's, yes, ma'am. That's where Forrest would cross. So that's McGavin Ford, and the Hughes Ford would be right there. That's where Forrest crossed one division. We're going to go over there somehow. We're going to do it. So, it's a big funnel. Imagine a 3-mile funnel when it begins, and then wham! And when we hit those trenches, this is the wham. And for example, from the road to the railroad track, that is only 400 yards. There are going to be 14,000 men engaged in 400 yards just from the road to the railroad track. Now, I'm not counting over here. 14,000 men in 400 yards, 4 football fields. Hell, I can't hardly comprehend that. I've been in an attack of 15,000, but over a 2-mile field, not 400 yards. And you see the river, and you see that area here look like a pie, but look how it's tapering, getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as they're hitting here. It's big out there, and then look how it tapers, gets smaller. There are 10 guns here. There's Fort Granger we went to the other day. They're going to be shooting right down that railroad track. Look at the water tower. Remember when we were at Granger yesterday? See the water tower there in the distance? That's just right above Fort Granger there. That gives you a good perspective where Granger is going to be right there as well. Like a proper recon, in my opinion. Some people feel Hood had to do this. I don't feel that, but that's beside the point. Attention! All coming to attention. Fixed bayonets, 20,000 clickings going down the line. And at 4 p.m., 20,000 Confederate soldiers, 18 Confederate brigades, 100 Confederate regiments, 100 battle flags flying, only 24 artillery pieces on the field. Bands playing. They marched down the slopes right into immortality. Adam Weaver of the Barking Dog Regiment, 104th Ohio, by the gym, was writing his diary. as this is all unfolding. 4 o'clock, the air is hazy. I can honestly hear bands playing, and that eerie, defiant, and jubilant rebel yell, "May God be with us." One federal soldier said it was like it was a big brown and gray wall moving toward them. The sounds was like a distant rumbling low hollow thunder as the 20,000 men's footsteps are coming toward them. One federal said, "Well, this is worth $500 to see this. That's $35,000 today." Another federal said, "Look at them, look at them, the brave, brave rebel boys. Their officers riding from one end of the line to the other one. Even though they are the enemy, all I have is admiration for them." General Jacob D. Cox, which would be 10 guns right here, little. He would later write that no one on that field that day would ever forget that frontal assault, and those that viewed the martial magnificence sent a thrill through one's hearts that would never, ever be forgotten. Ever be forgotten. Schofield, after the war, was in Prussia, visiting whatever over there, and watching these Prussians drill and move. And this Prussian general rides up to Schofield. He said, "Have you ever seen any troops on any field move better than my troops here?" He said, "Yes, once, at Franklin, Tennessee on November 30th when the Confederates were attacking our works." I mean, it's not like they're just running like Indians or crazy people. I mean, they're veterans. They're moving pow, pow. And then the rear brigades would swing under fire and they land on the right. Just precision. That's only veterans can do that. Under fire. You might be able to do it when you're drilling, but you're under fire. And it's just beautiful. Everything is just one cohesive body, and it's magnificent. The only, do you know of any charge in this war, either side, where they have bands playing in a charge? Do you know of any? Ed doesn't either, Ed Bars. And this only battle I know of, bands went into a charge. They're playing Dixie, Bonnie Blue Flag, Ben Boat, and The Girl I Left Behind Me. And Ben Boat's supposed to be a bad luck song, and hardly anybody knows how to play that, even though those bands today. But an old woman that's dead now told me that's bad luck to play that. Wow. Bad luck. It wasn't too good for today. But one Irish lad said to the band's playing, he said, "Faith, pat and be jabbers. This is the only battle I ever remember where the tutors and the shooters went in together." I couldn't make that up. Rabbits scurrying out in front of the Confederates by the multitudes. Whole coveys of quail and dove are flying up, blocking the sun for a moment. It's just magnificent. As Ed Bars says up here, it was a hell of a sight. It's a hell of a sight. It's a hell of a sight. It's like he's there. He was there living it at that moment. And it is. That's the beautiful part. It is just gallant, courageous, noble, glorious. Elicit the praises of both sides. No one's hurt yet. No one's hurt yet. And by the way, one Tennessean said to the rabbits, he said, "Run, Cottontails, run. Go at it, Miss Cottontails. My goodness, if I was a rabbit, I didn't have a reputation to have to guard my hail, I'd be running with you too." Hell, I bet. Yeah. People have said so many times, you know, I eat by him, I sleep by him, I march by him. I can't, even if I'm scared to death, I can't run away. I'm letting you down. Plus my family at home. I'll die 1,000 deaths. It's better to die once with honor than to die 1,000 times with dishonor. They make fun of that today. Honor, you know, a lot of people, you know, like some kind of joke or something. But honor, yeah, you do what's right, no matter what. The old country saying, you stand up to the rack, fodder or no fodder. You stand up to that rack, fodder or no fodder. And you go down with honor. And you're not going to let your comrades down. And only one source ever claimed there were 24 Confederate guns on the field here. That's Frank Cheatham. We documented that. Courtney's Battalion, that's Douglas, Texas Battery, Dents, Alabama, and Garrity's, Alabama Battery. Bledsoe's Missouri Battery coming over here to the east, which they call Pressman's Battery. Even Book said that. Pressman was an engineer. He's not a battery commander. And Gabor's Missouri Battery is going over there to the west. Excuse me, the east. And Bledsoe's to the west there. 24 guns were on the field, not 12, as most people comment. Hood, there were 121 cannons with this army. General Hood would not wait on the artillery. I've said 3 times yesterday, I think, that when S.D. Lee arrived here at 4:30, attack began at 4, he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe there was a battle going on. Because they made just a leisurely march up the pike, 1.5 to 2 miles an hour, which is getting it, really, you know, for us. But and when he came up, he couldn't believe it. As I said yesterday, if they're going to go in with both boots on, why didn't you send a courier to lead to hurry, fetch on up everything you got? We're getting ready to settle this damn thing right here. Come on up. And so I find that a little bit interesting as well. Apparently it was made quick. Maybe the courier couldn't find Lee. I doubt that. I don't know. You know, I don't know. But there's an advanced federal line. See where the little blue shed is there? That's this right here. So, and we'll get down there later. But advanced federal line shaped like an arrowhead of Wagner's division. 2 or 3 brigades out in front. Conrad and Lane's brigade. They were out in front at the apex or center a half a mile because they were almost positive that Hood was not going to make a frontal assault. General Cox advised the Lotz family, advised them early in the day not to leave. He said there'd be very little chance of a frontal assault of almost 2 miles of open field. Plus, he said he couldn't guarantee them the contents of the home if they left. Soldiers procure things, tear up things. They don't worry about the boots being muddy or anything. And I would have advised the family to stay. I would have advised them that myself. He was wrong, but that's 98% chances that's not going to happen here. That's why Schofield moved his headquarters to Granger, as we said yesterday. That's why Cox moved from the Carter House over to this area right here, because they look at that flat area. Look out in that area. That's where they're going to be flanked out. And just no one felt. And with Wagner, his orders were, if pressed, fall back with the 2 main lines well ahead of the attack. If pressed. Wagner's around the Carter House about midday having refreshments. And apparently, it wasn't buttermilk or lemonade. And so a courier rides up to Wagner by the Carter House. Says it's a massive frontal assault, massive frontal assault. He breaks a stick. He says, hold out till hell freezes over. Give the damn rebels blizzards. He moves over to the cotton gin. That courier's name was T.C. Gregg from Illinois. Anyone here from Illinois today? Oh, well. And it says, the whole Confederacy is coming here. And he says, you tell Colonel Conrad, and it's shaped like an arrowhead, just like that. You say, you tell Colonel Conrad the 2nd Division will whip all hell. That's a very strong talk for a one-eyed fat man. That's a true grit, by the way. And now to defend Wagner, nobody felt there'd be a frontal assault. I know he felt it was going to be a demonstration. That's a fake. Well, they're going to flank them one way or the other. They're very weak over here, by the way. To not defend him, apparently he was sipping. To defend him again, he did ride out there at the end, but it was too late. An artilleryman runs by him, and he yells, halt, halt, why are you running? And the man never stopped. All he said was, all hell's just broke loose in Tennessee, and it's coming right down that damn pipe, as he kept on running by him. And it was too late, as this was being flanked by French's division. They're trying to refuse their line. What does that mean? Oh, yes, as Maurice knows, we're shaped. There's the trench line. They're getting by us. They're pulling men back like this to keep them getting behind them. And then that center, that's that first moment of truth, that center is pierced by the Texans of Granberries. And Wagner disobeyed orders. Now, why wasn't Updike's brigade of the 2nd Division out in front with Conrad and Lane's? Why?
He refused to obey Wagner's orders.
Not only once, not only twice, but 3 damn times. Here's earlier before the attack, Wagner orders him out there. He refuses. They're riding by each other, cussing each other out. Because I know about Updike, he's mercurial. He's very volatile. And fine commander. I love that statue at Snodgrass Hill of the Tigers, the 125th Ohio Tigers. And he refuses. He said, I want to help the damn enemy. He's madder than hell because they hadn't had anything to eat anyway, and last to leave the hill, last had to come back. And they're riding down that pipe by each other, cussing each other out, riding through the main lines, cussing each other out, riding by the Lotz house, and finally Wagner says, this is before the attack, go at it, you curly-headed Dutchman, I know you fight wherever you are. And so he is about 75 yards north of the Lotz house in reserve, when he should have been out in front. Now, he likes to take credit for saving the whole day. Could have been saved without him? No. Could have been saved with just him? No, I don't think. But they needed them there, but there's other components that made that counterattack too, as well. Who is, by the way, with Updike's Brigade, we'll touch a lot on later. Who are they? 74